Hello, welcome, and an excellent evening. And today we do have another new sound card for retro PCs, so to speak, or to be precise, for anything that has a serial port and is fast enough to deliver data to it with roughly 115,000 baud. So a couple of the older machines will probably be too slow for that, but like my 486 is definitely capable as well. And you can even plug it into your modern PC with USB or USB to serial, depends on what you're using. We are talking about this little thing here. I think you can see it. It's the Tandy232, a Tandy serial USB sound card, so to speak. It uses the Texas Instruments SN76489 programmable sound generator, which was used in the IBM PC Jr, in the Tandy 1000 series, as well as games consoles such as the Sega Master System. Even the Sega Mega Drive had it due to backwards compatibility, the Sega Game Gear, and a bunch of other 8-bit machines from the 1980s. It is a relatively simple chip, running, I think, at 3 programmable square wave generators or something, plus a noise channel. And this whole thing here consists of a USB powered Arduino Nano and the sound chip, obviously, and there's a little bit of logic ICs down there, probably some MAX 232, I guess, for the serial interface. And you can put some jumpers here. If the jumpers are set, you are in serial mode, and this will be the interface. If you take them off, you will be in USB mode, and this is the interface. This thing needs power anyway. It can't power off the serial port, so some kind of power has to be plugged in here. But anything with a serial port should be able to accept this, and you can just write values for the chip onto this device. There's the line level output here, and I put a little bit of tape over the LEDs because they're super bright and they swamp my camera if it is powered on. The Arduino Nano is a relatively old microcontroller that is still quite popular, I would say. Nowadays, you would probably rather use an RP2040 Raspberry Pi Pico or RP2340 or 50, which is the newer variant, because they are so cheap. But I guess you can get these also for a couple euros as well. But they are definitely much weaker microcontrollers, but good enough for this case. You can program these using one of these devices, for example, which is the USB ASP or something like that. And you have these little breakout boards and plug them in, and you can use AVR-Dude or some kind of other software to flash these. But if they have a bootloader, you can also plug them in to your USB port directly and flash them via USB, which is also fine. On a modern PC, you can just use the USB interface, as I said, but you can also use something like this, which is an FTDI. It is a USB to serial converter. Doesn't make much sense to use it in this fashion, but it is definitely possible. You could even connect it to a modern PC if you had a Nano without the USB interface, or if you were to rehash this and use the Atmel controller directly on the board without the whole Nano stuff going in your way, so to speak. Yeah, that's definitely one of the possibilities. The Tandy sound cards that came before this, and this is again something by retroiana.de, which is Matze. He made some other Tandy-based sound cards, one of which is this here. This is a very old variant. through-hole components. There's the Texas Instruments chip. There's a bit of bus glue logic here, and I think we do have probably an amplifier chip over here, and I think a timer chip, so that you don't get any clicking during power up. You can use this, of course, but this will only run in an old IBM PC compatible with ISA slots. It will not run on more modern devices, and you can't plug it into like an Amiga on the serial port, for example. This here you could plug into an Amiga or any other machine with a serial port and code something to produce sound using this. And of course, you can also do emulation. There's a lot of emulators for the SN76489. But sometimes you just want to have the real little chip here doing all the work. And of course, you can also very simply use the PicoGus, which also supports emulation of the Tandy sound standard. So the PiPico on here can just simply emulate the whole deal here. But again, this is an internal solution, and sometimes you don't have any internal slots, like on a laptop, for example, a 38646 laptop or something. You wouldn't be able to do that. However, there are some caveats. The software has to support outputting the sound via serial. If not, well, there is a driver to emulate the regular internal Tandy sound chip, and we will come to that and to its limitations, most importantly. Yeah, so far so good. Let's first test this thing on a modern-ish PC attached to USB. And we can even use FTDI, but I think USB should be good enough. You will need a USB micro cable like this one here to power this at the very least, or to make the connection to the USB connection if you are not using an FTDI. And you will need something to plug into the line out, of course. And if you want to use it, for example, in DOSBox, because there's at least one program that already supports this, which is SBVGM. It's a DOS video game music player. It supports outputting via the serial port, the emulated DOSBox serial port. You will have to configure the serial port to be a real serial port on your machine, and we'll have a look at what this looks like. There's also a rudimentary patch out there for hacking DOSBox to emulate the original Tandy chip using this thing, but on my machine it doesn't work properly. So I would say we can't use that feature right now. But yeah, let's fire up the PC and have a look on how you can configure this to use it on a modern machine. I have opened up my DOSBox configuration over here, and I'm gonna try and make it a bit larger. We need to modify the serial section. You need to modify the serial 1 port to be direct serial and real port : TTY USB 0 if you are on Linux. On Windows, it's probably COM1 or something, depending on how many serial ports you have on your machine. But if you don't have any and you plug in this device, it should come up as COM1. Your mileage may vary, but on Linux and macOS, you should be able to see in the syslog what the device is, because let's plug that in. And on the right-hand side, down here in the bottom corner, you should be able to see the output from the kernel. This is Linux. And here it says it found a UART converter at TTY USB 0. So that's what we put in here. Now the device is there, the LED has come on, or the LEDs have come on. And now we can actually run DOSBox. I used the patched version, which doesn't run correctly with the Tandy emulation, but it doesn't matter. You could also use the stock one. I put the machine into Tandy mode because some games only will output Tandy music when they detect a Tandy machine. But we're not even bothered doing that right now. I will turn on my loudspeakers and let's unplug and plug in the device. And you're greeted with a jingle every time this thing receives power or is being reset. So I have an unofficial version of SBVGM. This will become updated at some point with support for the Tandy serial. Right now you can just put in Tandy serial and then you can put in the port number, which could be 3F8 or 2F8 usually, or let it try to automatically detect. And as I think this should work as is, basically. And we have here a demo sound from actually a PC demo by Trickster or Hornet, I guess. And there we had an issue because when I unplugged and replugged, of course, it switched to TTY USB 1 because DOSBox still had the file open. That was my bad. So restarting DOSBox and unplugging the thing again did help because now it should be at the correct address. It says here TTY USB 0. So we say TND serial and we use the PC Jr 2 song. It got even another reset, but now it's listen. We can also play some music which is for the Game Gear. I did download Sonic 1 music, so let's try something out of that folder. Let's try, I don't know, the fifth one. There was the music for the Act Complete, as it says. We can pick something else. This is the boss music when Eggman appears. Okay, so this seems to work. What should also work in theory is the real sound, but it did not work. Let's try it out if it works today. I doubt it. Will probably be very noisy. Oh no, it's working. So it did detect the Tandy 1000 at port C0. And here in the background, you can see all the commands being sent out to the chip, which are just byte commands, very simple byte commands. So that is actually pretty nice. This is highly experimental. This is just a quick hack. Yeah, works. This should also allow us to start some games. Let's try Monkey Island 1 because it does support Tandy music by doing TS and probably CGA. Okay, let's see if this actually produces sound. So this does not sound like much because the games of the time were not really pushing the sound chip to its limits. But it does work. Again, you can see the sound commands being pumped out by the DOSBox emulator onto the USB device. Funny enough that it works today. Yesterday with the dry run, I had some issues. But yeah, this shows that you can use this device in DOSBox to get sound from a real Texas Instrument PSG. But what about a real-life machine? Let's go over to my 486 Colani and see if that works there as well. So we are here at the Colani 486. I'm gonna tilt down the camera a little bit so you can see it a bit better. Awkwardly placed on the floor because I normally don't use this one, but I thought it's a nice idea to use it for this exact opportunity. And we have plugged in the Tandy serial sound card via a serial cable, and I also put the jumpers back in so that it definitely uses the serial port. There's a power-only micro USB cable, and there's the line out hooked up to the cheap Frimax branded loudspeakers that you can see here to the right, and over there to the left is also one hidden. We are in MS-DOS 6.0. We do have the command line here for SBVGM Tandy serial on port 2F8, and I'll show you in a second how to figure out which version you should be, or which port you should be using. And PC Jr 2 again, just for trying. So how do you figure out which port number to use? Because this doesn't use COM1 or COM2 or something. If you're on MS-DOS 6 or later, you can run Microsoft Diagnostics, which will evaluate your machine, and it will make a beep in a short while once it, or a noise, once it probes the serial port. And then you can go to COM ports, and here it says COM2 and COM1, which are on 3F8 and 2F8 respectively. So you can just try them out, which one is which. Usually on COM1 you would have your mouse. I don't have a mouse connected right now, but this device is currently on COM2, so that's 2F8. That should basically do the trick. The other thing we can do is, well, we can of course try out some other music. Let's again use maybe a theme from one of the Lucasfilm games. Let's see, is this Zack McCracken? Maybe. No, this is Maniac Mansion, but that works as well. Okay, let's try Zack McCracken. Should work, right? And also let's try Monkey Island 1, just like we did before, with Tandy sound. We can use EGA graphics here because that is working. And let's skip past the copy protection. And of course, right now we don't expect anything to happen because the chip is not at port C0, where this is currently writing to, but on port 2F8 and on a serial port, no less. So as you can hear, there's no music. So what can we do? There is a driver for that. It is called TND232. The TND232 program does not have many options, but you can pass the COM port, the status, and you can unload it. If you have MS-DOS version 6.0, like I have, the EMM386 version that's coming with this will not be good enough. You need MS-DOS version 6.2 or Windows for Workgroups 3.11, which also comes with EMM386, because EMM386 is used to virtualize basically the PC and to make it possible to abstract the ports that are in here, like the COM ports, or for example also the Tandy port C0, intercept them and redirect them to different ports or to a different driver, like this driver here. So every time someone is writing to port C0, it will be now instead writing to the COM2 port, 2F8. However, this takes quite a lot of time for the 486. Insofar, I'm not thinking that it will work pretty well. We are going to test this by running Monkey Island again with Tandy sound, and we will hopefully hear a couple of notes, but probably not those that we are expecting. Okay, there are some notes, but a lot of notes get dropped. And Matze told me that this is due to the fact that the machine is not quick enough, or maybe the driver's not fast enough or efficient enough. I don't know. I haven't looked at the source code. I can't even say if it's possible on such a machine to do this translation in real time. We did see that the SBVGM obviously worked fine. We can also try running SBVGM now with without the serial option, but it doesn't even detect that there is a Tandy hardware there. So we still need the Tandy serial option with the 2F8, and then we can play anything that we want with this thing. So the question now is, how useful is this? Obviously, for the older machines, for older laptops, this is not good enough because you really need special support in your software for this, and the old games don't have that. The question would be if they could be patched to write onto the serial port directly, because obviously this works, like with the SPVGM. But then again, especially for machines like this, you can simply put in a real Tandy ISA sound card, or just very simple, the PicoGus, which can emulate a whole range of sound cards. This is, I think, most important or useful for people who really want to tinker with this thing on the microcontroller itself, or hook it up to a different microcontroller and do some standalone music. Or maybe for people with a fast Windows-based laptop, like Pentium 2 era or something, then you can hook it up to the serial port that those still had. Or on a modern machine, if you don't want emulation but the real sound, you can just hook it up to USB. Insofar, it is an interesting example of homebrew hardware and what you can do with just a couple of chips. But I don't think that this will be used widely by a lot of people, because the Tandy sound is not that great. And yeah, there's a large library of, for example, Master System sounds, video game sounds, and stuff like that. But in the end, if you want to play games, you probably better get a PicoGus or an internal Tandy card if you want the real deal. But yeah, that's it. Leave a comment, share, like, and subscribe. Tell me about your experiences with Tandy-based sound systems. Did you own a Tandy 1000 back in the day? Here in Europe, I think they were not common. The PC Jr is also very uncommon here, so we didn't see much of this. I think the Master System was probably the most widespread device that we had here in Europe that was using the same sound chip. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope to see you in the next video, and until then, have a nice evening. Bye.